JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Thursday, July 10th, 3:35 p.m. on this fine afternoon. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from the S&P in the green. Looks like we're going to close at another all-time high above the last Thursday's close. Just remarkable stuff. It seems like just yesterday I was talking about 598 to 607 and 607 to 620, and here we are, 517 or so, 617 to 628 on a SPY. It looks like, I mean, we might gap up tomorrow and hit that level, and then we'll have to revisit. But just remarkable rally. Yields are kind of slightly lower. The dollar's slightly stronger. The VIX is in the red and at the 15 handle again, or around the 15 handle. And then all in the face of pretty much every possible headwind that you can throw at: geopolitical stuff, inflation, uh, trade war, just you name it. So it's kind of funny. You still have folks, you have Fed speak at 1 o'clock. They're still waiting for the inflation data to show up. You have articles out today that CPI data comes out on Tuesday, right? So it's kind of the kickoff of the earnings season plus the CPI data, and everybody's already hyping up this CPI data like it's going to be the most important CPI data that's in recent memory. And of course, it would be, or will be, if it's hotter than expected. But typically, when that happens, Fed Chair Powell will go on his little presser and say, "Well, we need to see multiple data points over a course of time to really count on that data," right? So even if it's hotter, you would have to be hotter for a couple quarters in a row. So this is fine. At the same token, we are near we're at all-time highs and we continue to head higher. At some point, there's going to be a pull, right? And all the smart people who are long on the way up, it's going to be a very quiet day. So I'm not going to sit here and load the boat because I think we're going to head up another 5 to 10% over the next month or two. I'm hoping that even if we're flat or a little pull, that small caps can kind of take the reins, and at least some stocks will continue to head higher. That would be the ideal scenario through the summer. But for now, we'll take where we get it, what we're getting. And again, look at the SPY. Upper Bollinger Band's now at 631. That RSI is back over 70. So that was something I talking about at the start of the week. Probably want to see that tick down. So I don't know if we'll have consolidation tomorrow, but I'd love to see that 628 handle hit. All right, so that's kind of the overall market. So this morning was one of those harvesting days, right? So Roku had that upgrade from KeyBank. I don't even know what their previous price target was, and I tried to go back and they had price targets in the 80s, but I don't know when their last price target adjustment was. But needless to say, I mean, it gapped higher all the way up into the 90. I think it was 91 and 50 at the open. 91.66. Is that what it hit? Let's see. What was the high today? 91. It opened at 91, 91.66, and then boom, at 10 o'clock it was back under 90. I mean, we've seen this play out before. I'm not going to be in a spot with my calls to not take some off. So I took the rest of my July strikes. I'd already locked in, the 95s. I'd already locked some of the 95s in for 100%. I took the rest off for like 30%. I just didn't want to see those profits evaporate. Not only that, now we're dealing with the time factor. So there's only 6 more days to expiration. And also I wanted to take that and use it to possibly get some August strikes. Found some footing about 10 o'clock, bounced into the 90s. It's sitting here pretty much right at 90. I still have the 100 strikes for next week. So for now, I'll just hold those. I have 2 concerns, right? And one is, I may keep saying the upper Bollinger Band, but 92.43 is the upper Bollinger Band on Roku. And then the other is like maybe some of this is baked into earnings, right? So it just seems like there's still a lot of folks on the sidelines or who don't believe in the story. And every time it gets a bump up, people sell it. So I might just be patient, and then if I can get some August cheaper for premium build, I might try to do that. But at least I got some out on those 95. So that was Roku. And then Joby, I mean, just a monster. I'm trying to find the data of how many times it's closed up 6 sessions in a row, but just a monster run. And then also considering its past history of volatility, you would think at some point there'd be a pull, 7, 10, 15, 20%, but there's been nothing, right? So just remarkable stuff. I used the move to close some more some more strikes. I mean, in hindsight, maybe I should have held on to the 11s, but those premiums haven't really come up as much as I thought they would. But anyway, needless to say, I locked some of the August strikes in, and then I was looking to get the Octobers, right? So I'm looking, I'm like the 18s, the October 19s, October 20s. I'm trying to get a sense for the risk reward, and to me, the risk reward on those 18s, if we do get a pull, the premiums are going to get destroyed. So I'd rather go shorter dated. I went and got some higher strikes on the August, and then if it gets continuation tomorrow, hopefully I'll be able to lock some of those in to cover costs, and I'll just ride those strikes for now. And then if we do get a pull, I'll go out and get some Octobers. Again, I've been saying for the last couple of days, there's going to be a time when this goes bonkers. I don't know if this is we're in the midst of it and it's going to do it, or it's going to be in 6 months, or it's going to be in 2026. But at some point, there's going to be 12, 15, 20, 25, 30, and it's going to happen very quickly. So, also of note, you have to watch out. Kerrysdale Capital, that's the short name. They had a short piece out in 2023 on it, and this is when it had a $5 billion valuation, kind of pretty much nixing the possibility that Joby would ever be, let's not even say like a public trade, but ever get off the ground, pun intended, right? I just, that they pretty much cited, and this report, I remember when I first doing research on, I'm like, oh wow, here's another short. And Kerrysdale Capital has been some of the names that I've been in on the short side. I have to go back and look. Tilray is one of them, and obviously they've been right on that one. But if you take a look at that report, they talk about lithium ion batteries. They talk about clean energy. They talk about the recharging, how the battery cycle is supposed to last a couple thousand trips. They don't think it's going to last more than 10 or 100. I forget what the. So there was a lot of easy to put out bear cases on Joby. It is easy, right? When you have a new possible techno, or just a completely new way of transport, and it's going to be electric, it's not be gas, right? There's so many different hurdles they have to get through. It's so easy to poke holes in it, right? So uh, just pretty. So anyway, so why I say that is because at some point I always have in the back of my head they're going to come out with another short piece when it's right when the momentum's kicking in, right? So that's another reason why I get a little cautious, well, at least a little more selective, locking some of these calls in, because you just never know. And then it's the most frustrating thing when it comes out. You know they're wrong. You know the stock price is going to be higher 6 or 12 months later, but that short term pain is no fun. All right, so that's Joby. Also of note too, take a look at the trend line, right? I drew this last weekend. This is not a be all end all for how the stock is going to go, right? It's just a channel, right? It's just a possible uptrend that it's in. It can break out of that uptrend and continue going, right? But at the same token, that could be a spot where maybe there's a little consolidation before it heads higher. So just something of note as well. All right, so that's Joby. Oh, and then Dell. So, Dell, I've been holding 130s. I had the 140 freebies as well. I mean, it's been slow and steady since the pincher and the big move last week. Uh, and then it's just been, or 2 weeks ago, and then it's just been chopping around. And then finally some life yesterday into the close, and then life at the open, and then all the way up to 128 by the noon hour. I didn't want to be in a spot where I lost the profits on my 130, so I locked the rest of those in for, I guess, close to 100%. I had already locked most of them in already. And I was actually looking at like 130, 135s for next week, but it's one of those names. It's 128, then it's 126, then it's 129 and 125. So I'm not going to waste mental energy on this name, and I'll just continue to hold the 140s if I see an opportunity into next week, or maybe even to get some higher strikes to collect some premium for their earnings in a couple weeks. That might be another possibility, similar to Roku. RH, I was staring at RH all morning, and just relative strength. Same with Wayfair. Both of the monster ones here. Well, I say monster, but Wayfair's at $59. It almost looked like it was going to test 60 at about 230. And then RH, which, was under 200 for most of the week, boom, all the way up to 217.60, about 140. I almost pulled the trigger on grabbing some Lotto 230s. They were like 20 cents, then 25. The thing is, I still have the strikes I added last week. So, and those were coming back to life when it was 217. So I'll continue to hold those. And then, I've done RH on probably like 4 of the past 7 or 8 option expirations. I don't know if I'll do it tomorrow, but certainly one I'll be watching, just because it's like their earnings were great. This tariff situation, which kind of weighed on the name, that's some of it. Obviously, their inventories and all these other things, that's gone, right? And stocks 400 and some dollars in mid January and then into February. I don't think that all that loss in valuation is warranted. And I'm not saying it should go back to $400, but it should be 250 plus, if not higher, in the coming weeks. So that's kind of my rationale, my thought process. Not only that, it's like the sell off in February, March, and April was because a recession was coming, right? Not a recession was coming. We were in a recession, right? If you were listening to the headlines, the FinTwit, the financial pundits, all those folks, so many folks, I'd argue with people on different platforms that we're in a recession. I'm like, what? And hey, I'm not an economist. I try to keep things positive. I mean, using that R word, they don't happen that too often, right? And sometimes when I mean, it kind of did in 2022, but that they negated that with only 1/4 of, well, the negative growth doesn't in GDP back is not truly the definition of recession, but it's just funny how that all works. So when you see, and even Roku, the same thing. Roku was selling off because not because of the hardware with tariffs, it was selling off because advertising spend was going to come down because we were in a recession, but we're not in a recession, right? So you would think that some of these names would have come back with a little more vigor. Maybe RH, this is the start of it. So hopefully it does. All right. That's that. TripAdvisor over $18 here this morning. In the early, it ran up to 1840 or yeah, 1841 in the morning. Some of it's just continuation, obviously, the Starboard value stake. The other is you had, was it United Airlines? One of those airlines, American Airlines, reported monster earnings, and I kind of like took away again another recession worry was that travel. I was seeing that for the last couple of weeks. I'm like, wow, trip might not do good because travel might be going down, but and then they have this, and you're like, nope, not in a recession. So I think that's some of it, but I was still looking for some more strikes on trip, but I just want to lock the rest of my Julys in, so I'll wait to do that. Still have the September strikes; those are slightly green. I'll continue to hold those. VKTX, I mean, here it is, 31.40, holding $30 for the third day in a row. It hasn't done that. Maybe get some legs, right? It starts flashing, hitting some radars. People start looking at it, say, "Oh, wait a second, they have data in a less a month, possibly less than a month. What has been one of the biggest moving stocks over the last year and a half after data? VKTX. Are we gonna have lightning strike again? Which rarely does happen, but when you have data like VKTX, I think it's possible. So maybe some of that combination of what the stock breaking out of at least a 2-month trend. So if we can hold here, I think maybe it trades north of 35 this tomorrow or starting next week, and my July calls come back to life. Just other names, PayPal and Apple showing some signs here today. Just they're going to have some continuation. And then the small tech bios, the small cap bios, I'm called small tech. Turn started to break over that 200-day moving average and gave it back in the morning, bounced into the afternoon. Sitting here pretty much flat as a pancake. I'll probably wait just to see if maybe this took a breather today and it's going to resume its uptrend tomorrow. Same with Edit, same with Corbis. I'm trying to think of some of these other names that are really starting to go. I mean, it's funny. All of a sudden you turn around and iRobot's on a tear, up 11%. I mean, that's a name. It's just I used to love the story somewhat of I used to love it way back in the day, but even recently with the whole Amazon situation and then the FTC and then the blocking the deal in the EU and yeah, now it's just tough to kind of. So I see that move. I tell myself not to trade it just because. Also, I think I mentioned a couple of days ago, WW came out of their restructure, right? They reorged their bankruptcy. And it's like those names you see, even if they're garbage, crap, whatever, same with names that split, right? It seems like every time after a company does a reverse split, even they can be the biggest garbage company of out there, and some reason, somehow they go. And I don't know if it's because of supply, someone's got to cover, someone's just yeah. So I was looking at WW the other day and I'm like, just the options were all wacky because of the yeah, they're not even, I don't even think they are trading, but they're weird. So, yeah, not one I'll trade. Anyway, let's have a great day, folks. I'll be back. Rock and roll.